Walk into any gun store and you'll hear the same thing. Somebody's dropping $2,000 on a custom AR-15 because an influencer used one, without ever touching a rifle that shaped history. These legends didn't get there through marketing. They won wars, armed outlaws and lawmen alike, and outlived everything built to replace them. Some sit in surplus racks for a few $100s, ignored. And the rifle at number 1 is the most produced firearm in human history. Number 10, the Winchester Model 1873. Winchester called it the gun that won the West, a slogan an engineer named Edwin Pugsley coined decades after the fact, but the reputation was already earned. Between 1873 and the early 1920s, Winchester built over 720,000 of these lever-action rifles, feeding 15 rounds of .4440 ammunition from a tube under the barrel. That caliber also worked in Colt and Remington revolvers, so a cowboy could carry one type of ammunition for both his rifle and his sidearm. Buffalo Bill Cody wrote Winchester a personal letter praising the rifle after stopping a charging bear in the Black Hills with it. Billy the Kid is pictured holding one in the only confirmed photograph of him. Forensic evidence even placed 8 of these rifles in Native American hands at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and townsfolk in Coffeyville, Kansas used several more to turn back the Dalton Gang's final robbery. Hollywood cemented the legend in 1950 with the film Winchester 73, starring James Stewart. It wasn't the hardest-hitting rifle of its era, it was simply the rifle everyone on the frontier wanted in their hands. Number 9, the Springfield 1903. Built at the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts and adopted in 1903, this bolt-action rifle borrowed its action directly from the Mauser design out of Germany, a decision that later cost the US government a patent settlement. It carried American troops through World War I and stayed in frontline service well into World War II, even after the semi-automatic M1 Garand became the standard issue rifle. Marine Corps snipers specifically held on to their Springfields, trusting the 5-round bolt-action's accuracy over the Garand's speed. During the desperate early Pacific campaigns, National Guard units carried Springfields into combat before enough Garands could reach the front. Its cock-on opening bolt and stripper clip loading made it slower to fire than the rifles that replaced it, but for precision work at distance, American marksmen kept choosing it. Number 8, the FNFAL. Designed by Belgian engineer Dieudonné Saïve, the FAL earned the nickname the right arm of the free world during the Cold War. And for good reason. More than 90 countries adopted it as their standard battle rifle, putting it on the opposite side of the AK-47 in conflict after conflict across 4 decades. Chambered in the full-power 7.62 by 51 NATO round, it used an adjustable gas system that let armorers tune the rifle for different climates and ammunition loads, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Southeast Asia. British paratroopers, Australian infantry, and Israeli soldiers all carried variants of the same basic design, and some NATO nations debated for years whether the rifle's recoil made automatic fire even worth including. Few rifles have seen combat on as many continents under as many different flags as the FAL. Number 7, the Lee-Enfield SMLE. British and Commonwealth soldiers carried this bolt-action rifle through both world wars, and its rear-locking, cock-on closing bolt made it the fastest cycling bolt-action of its generation. Trained riflemen developed something the British Army called the Mad Minute, placing 15 or more aim shots on a target within 60 seconds, a rate German troops sometimes mistook for machine gun fire during the opening battles of World War I. Its 10-round detachable magazine held double what most rival bolt-actions carried at the time. Manufactured from 1907 onward, the Lee-Enfield tolerated desert sand in North Africa, monsoon humidity in Burma, and Arctic cold on the northern convoys equally well. Some Commonwealth police forces kept Lee-Enfield variants in active service into the 1990s, longer than almost any other bolt-action rifle in the world. Number 6, the STG-44. Nazi Germany's weapons office wanted this rifle killed before it was ever built. Adolf Hitler had ordered new rifle development stopped, so engineers disguised the project under the name Maschinenpistole 43, hiding a genuinely new category of weapon inside a designation for something Hitler had already approved. When reports came back from the Eastern Front describing what the rifle could do, Hitler reversed himself and personally renamed it the Sturmgewehr, meaning assault rifle, a term that stuck for every rifle of its type built since. Germany only managed to produce around 425,000 of them before the war ended, far too few and far too late to change the outcome. Engineers even experimented with a curved barrel attachment designed to let a soldier fire around a corner from inside a tank, though the idea never worked well enough for widespread use. If you're finding this rundown useful, hit subscribe. We cover the real history behind firearms every week, not the marketing version. Number 5, the AR-15 and M16. Eugene Stoner designed the original rifle in the late 1950s, aiming for something lighter than the full-power battle rifles of the era while still hitting hard at range. The US military adopted it as the M16 for the Vietnam War, and early production models developed a reputation for jamming in the jungle heat and humidity, a problem eventually traced to a change in gunpowder and a lack of chrome-lined barrels rather than the design itself. Once those issues were corrected, the rifle became the backbone of American infantry for the next 60 years. Its civilian counterpart, the AR-15, has since become the best-selling rifle platform in the United States, built today by manufacturers ranging from Colt to Sig Sauer to Daniel Defense, with an accessory market so large that almost every part on the rifle can be swapped or upgraded. Walk into nearly any American gun store in 2026, and this is still the rifle taking up the most shelf space. Number 4. The Mosin Nagant. Russia adopted this bolt-action rifle in the 1890s, and it armed the Russian Empire, then the Soviet Union, for more than 50 years straight. Factories produced over 37 million of them, a number that dwarfs almost every other military rifle ever built. It wasn't elegant, it was heavy, its trigger pull was notoriously rough, and its bayonet stayed fixed to the barrel more often than not. But it worked in temperatures that froze rifle oil solid, and it was cheap enough to arm entire conscript armies without a second thought. Soviet snipers used scoped Mosin Nagant variants to devastating effect during the fighting at Stalingrad, cementing the rifle's reputation decades before American surplus buyers ever got their hands on one. Number 3. The Mauser 98. Paul Mauser spent years failing before he got this one right, with the German Rifle Testing Commission rejecting several of his earlier bolt-action attempts. His 1898 design finally solved the problems that had plagued repeating rifles before it. A non-rotating claw extractor, a 3-position safety, and a staggered box magazine combined into an action so reliable that it became the blueprint nearly every bolt-action rifle since has copied in some form, including the hunting rifle sitting in your neighbor's gun safe right now. Germany adopted the shortened Karabiner 98K version as its universal infantry rifle for World War II, arming everyone from frontline infantry to artillery crews with the same basic weapon. Number 2. The M1 Garand. John Garand spent over a decade developing this rifle at the Springfield Armory before the U.S. Army adopted it in 1936, and it changed infantry combat overnight. It was the first semi-automatic rifle issued as the standard weapon of a major military force, feeding 8 rounds of .30-06 ammunition from an en-bloc clip that ejected with a distinctive metallic ping once empty. Winchester and Springfield Armory built more than 5 million of these rifles between 1937 and 1957, and to this day, veterans and collectors talk about that ping like it's a sound effect pulled straight from history itself. Number 1. The AK-47. Mikhail Kalashnikov developed this rifle in the Soviet Union between 1946 and 1948, officially named the Avtomat Kalashnikova Model 1947. Of the over 1 billion firearms estimated to exist worldwide, close to 100 million belong to the Kalashnikov family, and the overwhelming majority of those are AK-47s specifically. No other rifle design comes close to that number. The genius of the design is its tolerance for abuse. Loose internal tolerances let it keep firing when it's packed with mud, buried in sand, or frozen solid. Soldiers with almost no formal training can field strip and clean one in under a minute, and the simple selector lever on the side switches between safe, automatic, and single fire without any tools at all. Chambered in the 7.62x39 intermediate cartridge, it hits a balance between controllability and stopping power that later designers spent decades trying to match. It's been manufactured, copied, and carried on every continent except Antarctica, in the hands of national armies and revolutionary movements alike. Whatever you think about how it's been used, there's no arguing with the numbers. This is the most successful rifle design human beings have ever built. 10 rifles, 4 continents, and roughly 150 years of history, and not one of them earned its reputation from a marketing department. They earned it in factories running around the clock, in trenches, in deserts, and in the hands of soldiers who needed a rifle that wouldn't fail them. Next time you're standing in a gun store trying to decide what's worth your money, it's worth asking which category you're actually buying into. A rifle built to impress an algorithm, or a rifle built the way these 10 were? Which one on this list surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments, and if you want the deep dive on any single rifle here, let us know which one to cover next.